Invisibility is something that is way too common amongst women. And since we are currently talking about suicide awareness prevention, this is a timely conversation to be had. But what if we told you that it didn't have to be that way and that change is possible no matter what your current situation is? 29 incredible women action takers have moved from a space of feeling invisible to becoming invincible. And today we're going to be talking to Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's one of the contributors to the book called Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. Stay with us. We'll introduce you to Mary shortly.
You have a story that is unique, a story that needs to be heard, a story that people care about. So it can get them to stand up for what they believe in. It can inspire them to change. It can inspire them to take action. It can inspire them to care. Care enough to be the light to someone's darkness. Care enough to extend a helping hand to someone who's down and out. Care enough to call things the way they are and see them for what they could be. Your story can make a difference. Your story can save a life. Your story matters. One story changed the entire world. Your story could do the same. All you've got to do is own your story.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. I'm your host, Bridgetti Lambanda from Cape Town in South Africa. This live stream is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media. A special warm welcome to you, our viewers. If you're watching us on Amazon Live, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, this is an audience-centric show, so we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to make a comment, say hello. I am watching all the comments, so if you ask a question or make a comment, I will see that. I'm keeping an eye on that. If you are brand new to the show, if you've never seen the show before, please feel free to say that you are new, and I would love to give you a shout out. My amazing guest today is also a friend of mine. And I'd love to welcome her and introduce you to her if you've not met her. Mary Elizabeth Jackson is a two-time #1 Amazon best-selling author. And her most recent work is in the two collaborative anthologies. The one is called The Fearless Entrepreneurs, and the other one is The Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. Mary is also 2017 Gold Maxi Award-winning author of the children's book series Perfectly Precious Policious Look at Me, and Policious Oh, the Wonder of Me. And very excitingly, I think very, very soon, she's going to be releasing Cheers from Heaven, which is a mid-grade reader, with her co-author Thornton Klein, also an amazing award-winning author and songwriter. In addition to being an author, Mary's also still needs advocate and an ambassador for Autism Tennessee. She co-hosts the Writers Corner live show as well as the special needs show with me. But who can better tell her story than Mary herself? Let's welcome her to the show, shall we? Mary, welcome to the show. I am so honored to have you as my guest today.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. And you know, I've just the intros you do are always, I love them. And it just if that doesn't make you feel special, I really don't know what what would in your day. So wow, it just makes you go, oh hey, all that other stuff doesn't matter right now.
No, it doesn't. And you look
Yeah.
gorgeous as
Oh,
always.
thank you.
I just want to add that you look absolutely gorgeous. And
Oh, thank you.
I'm I'm so it's so special that we both are co-contributors in the book Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And you know, the timing could not, it's an amazing book. The timing could not have been better because we're talking about suicide um, prevention. And I want to give a huge shout out to Linda, who's actually watching us over on Amazon Live. Thank you for joining us, Linda. You
She's
rock,
our
lady.
she is our fearless leader, and she is the one who, if you don't know Linda, you need to go to Women Action Takers Network and meet Linda, because she truly is a woman who stepped into herself, and it's so awesome. I think there's a lot of us who are in our 50s who have now, we moved into that place of stepping into ourselves. So I think 50s are absolutely amazing for women, because we kind of get to that place where, okay, this is, we've done all this, or we've been all through this, and we've had all these things happen. And now it's time for us to really live the way that we want to, and to conquer those things and just go, I am not carrying that stuff around with me anymore. But Linda stepped into saying yes to herself. So when she did that, I know she had no idea, but she had this entire huge domino effect. And she's just, all these women have lined up behind her, and everyone's just kind of saying, yeah, I'm going to say yes to myself too. So she really has stepped into an amazing role in her life, and boy, aren't we lucky to know her and be a part of what she's got going on.
Absolutely. And Linda's saying, she's only just got started, and she
we
has.
we know that. We know
She's
that
on
she's
an
unstoppable.
absolute roll.
Yeah.
At 58, I think she started stepping into her new life and role at the age of 51.
Yes.
And she's just grown from there in leaps and bounds. And so what we want to talk about is this is her book, um, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And just the fact that, with it being Suicide Prevention Month, people who often contemplate suicide is because they feel invisible in the world. They feel that they
Absolutely.
don't matter. They have feelings of worthlessness. And you and I can relate to that. I can relate to it. But we're here to talk about your story in the book
Mm.
today, about and yours. We've had a couple of other authors on the show talking about Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. But your story has a little bit of a different twist to it. Tell us
Mm.
about it.
Is that because well, my chapter is called, sometimes, there are times we all wish we were invisible or want to be invisible. And when I started to write the chapter for this book, and thinking about the title of the book and knowing what the meaning of it meant, I thought all that kept coming to me was how many times in my life I really wanted to be invisible. But then having that anger at the times I have felt invisible. It's a real double-edged sword, isn't it? Because there are times we do want to hide, and we want to be away from
I
everything.
think we
But
all
then
do.
yeah, and then there are times, like as a mom, how many times do we feel invisible and feel like a doormat? And we've done XYZ all day, every day. And does anyone ever say thank you? And that's not why we're doing it. But every once in a while, it would be nice to have somebody say, hey, thank you for doing all this for me. While I'm out in the world doing all of these things, or I'm growing up, or I'm going out to take care of the family and that kind of thing. And I think it happens when our kids, they do too, and we did it too as children. I mean, you do it to children, you're just not aware of not taking things for granted, because you just, for kids, it is what it is right in front of their face. But the times in my life, I come from a family that was broken and divorced. I come from abandonment in my childhood all the way up into my adulthood. And that really does make a person feel invisible, to have a parent or family member, especially a parent, who does not participate, doesn't seem interested, doesn't care, is so detrimental to a child, and to a young child, a teenager, even a young adult. And, you know, you can get that chip on your shoulder saying, oh, I'm fine, it doesn't matter. But truly deep down inside, you know, when we're born and we're littles, we emulate everything in our environment. We pick up the first impressions about ourselves, and our belief systems begin from the time we take a breath in this world. So, as parents, don't we have a big responsibility to ensure that our child feels loved, safe, and nurtured? But when you don't get those messages, we grow up with those core beliefs that we're either not good enough, we're not worthy, we don't mean anything, we're not valuable, you know. And so we spend a lot of time beating ourselves up, or we overcompensate by doing too much to try to be seen and heard. And
Right.
so, you know, there was a very abusive relationship in high school with a boy. I'm sure, oh no, a lot of women have been through that. There was an attempted kidnapping all my life in my early 20s. And not to highlight any of that, but that really, at that point in my life, I went into what I would call hiding. Like, I had a career at that time, I had goals in my life, I have things I was working for. And I took a total step back in my life. And it's right around the time my husband and I met. And I ended up really becoming a recluse because of that, because it scared me so much. And it made me feel, the message I got was that the world was not a safe place. So from there, what happened was I had some medical issues that happened. And I went from 115 pounds to almost 300 pounds in a very short amount of time. Now, I have a body, or did, I was a dancer most of my life. So I was very physically fit. But what I have come to learn through all the healing that I have done over the years is that weight on the body is really a form of protection. When we don't feel protected, our body manifests it, our subconscious manifests it. And how powerful is that, that we can actually create that without even realizing what we're doing? That's pretty powerful stuff if you really sit and break it down and analyze it. So it took me a long time to realize that, but also the message that I was portraying was that I didn't feel good enough about myself and I didn't feel worthy. And at the same time, thinking that I was hiding, here I am, my body is larger than what it was intended to be in this life for me. And really, you're very seen, aren't you? Because how can somebody
Mm.
not notice a person who's larger, right, than a tiny little person, you know? And so I always used to say I was a skinny person trapped in a fat person's body, because that's how it felt to me to be a certain size my whole life. And then all of a sudden I was a different size and having to learn and to live in that world and try to figure out what was wrong with my body. But that message behind all that was that there was something wrong. There was something wrong, because I learned that from my childhood. There was something wrong with me, or with my environment. My world didn't feel safe. So I created this and manifested it. So I think part of what we're all trying to portray in our book, Invisible Forevermore, is Invincible Forevermore, excuse me, is we're trying to encourage women to talk about their traumas, to acknowledge what's happened to them in their life, acknowledge the patterns they have learned, the belief systems they have learned, so they can heal themselves. So that when you go to do something in your life, you can say, hey, what's my motivation here for why I'm doing this? And if it's an unhealthy one, you can course correct to let it come from a healthy place, you know? And so learning all of these things, I think the 29 women that are in this book have such invaluable information and shares that we have shared with each other. You know, I just, it has allowed me to talk more in depth about things I've never talked about, because we learn to be very surface in our life. And not that that's the best way to be, but we don't introduce ourselves to people saying, hey, you know, I was abandoned, or I was raped, or I was, you know, I went through medical things, or I was almost kidnapped, or, you know, I had a child who was abused. You know, we don't come into conversations with all that baggage, because we want people to think we are some kind of perfect package that you might want to work with, or be a friend with, or hang out with.
Mm.
And that's human nature, isn't it? So But I think those of us in this book have come to that place where we're like, we don't want to live that way anymore, and we have overcome all this, and you can as well. And how freeing is that? And in the act of doing all that, it's extremely freeing, you know?
Absolutely. And I was just looking at the comments from Sherry and Linda over on Amazon. Sherry's agreeing with you that, it's a journey. What all 29 women have been on is not a sprint.
Mm,
For many of us, it took
a
many, many
lifetime.
years. It's taken a lifetime to get to the point where we are. And I think a lot of us are still healing. I've
Yes.
discovered that as we've been doing this series of interviews on um, becoming invincible, it's not that we've already are 100% there. It's a process. It's an ongoing process. And I think I want everyone, people who are watching to know that healing is a journey. I think was it Sherry or Linda that said it's like it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not something you just happen to get over. And I've noticed it's very hard when we do talk about our stories in these
Yes.
interviews to not feel emotional, because it's real life journeys. These are not made up stories of 29 women. It's things that we live with and live through every single day still. And we still, we're getting real here. We get triggered by certain circumstances and words still take us back to that dark place. But being able to, thanks to Linda, we've been able to share our stories, and start that, journey of starting to feel comfortable talking about our life experiences. And what I love is that we're hoping, you and I and all the other women, we're hoping it will give other women permission to do the same. Um,
Absolutely. And it also is, we're not saying that. All I know is that we're saying, we have these broken pieces and parts, but we've put them all back together, and we accept who we are and where we are in our life. And that's one of the most important things, is being able to accept yourself and where you are. And if you don't like where you are, then look for those choices or ways to get out of where you are into where you want to be, because there is always a way. And we're hoping that this book maybe will help give women permission, and men too, give them permission to understand they have choices. Like, we just lost a family member a month or two ago, to basically suicide. And I don't believe she thought she had a choice. And part of what happened was the pandemic and being recluse and being so, um, I guess, just not being able. I don't know everything that happened, but I feel like that she didn't feel like there was a choice, and a lot of people don't feel like there's a choice. We're so hard on ourselves. We beat ourselves up so much in life about what we've done wrong, or better choices we could have made, or why didn't I see that coming. I certainly have done that. Things with my children, you know, um, things with myself. Why wasn't I more aware? Why wasn't I paying attention? Why did I let that bother me so much? Why did I buy into that belief system? But we do, because we're only human. We can only do so much in this world. But if we can go, hey, this is all my crap in this life, and it happened, but I'm here now, and I have drive, and I have compassion, and I have purpose, and I want to serve. And that, I think, helps you to get out of the bed every morning, because life is bigger than we are. And what I always tell my kids, we have one life to live, and we need to make the best of it. We may just have today, as we have seen with our world. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But if we are like, today I'm going to embrace my life, and I'm going to look for every silver lining, or acknowledge the silver linings, and I'm going to stay in a positive mindset, that's power. That's a choice. And that's freedom. And we have that freedom to decide how we feel about things. It's storming outside, you're achy, you feel crappy, maybe all these things have gone wrong, you're worried about money, but where can we find a silver lining in that? And one of those is how we look at it, right? It's how we choose to let it affect us. And yeah, so we have all this going on, but I can still be in a good place about it. I can still be creative, and I can still produce, and I can still look toward my future, the next moment, tomorrow, the next day. How where is my power and control in all of this? And not being a control freak, you know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I totally get you. It was something that I had to relearn as well, because somewhere in the journey of life, I lost myself along the way as
Yes.
well. And what I did was I literally handed my feelings and my life on a silver platter to the people around me who didn't
Mm,
value me. Um, and literally, with my permission, these people were trampling on my feelings,
mm,
and I needed to revalue myself, to reevaluate where I'm at, and then make up my mind to do things differently, so that I took back that power, not in a bad way, but simply valuing myself enough not to allow other people to trample on who I am.
yes. That's hard, isn't
And
it, as women?
it's not in a boastful manner, but it's
Right.
simply, if you want other people to love you, you need to show them how you want to be loved, is what it is. In other words, lead the way. And I was saying this in a conversation, I think it was with Linda. It's like needing, on a plane, they teach you to put your oxygen mask on first. And even first aid taught this. Before you attend to the patient, make sure that you are safe. Otherwise, you can't help anyone else. And
Mm,
so we need to put on our own life jackets first before, I love serving other people. I enjoy doing things for other people. I'm in my happy zone when I can do things for other people. But unless I
mm.
take care of me first, unless I'm in my own happy space, I don't have the love and the happiness to share with other people. And that's the realization that I've made. I first need to be happy in my own self, in my heart, and in my being. I need to be happy first.
Yeah, and people view that sometimes as selfish. And I guess we've got to rethink this whole way of how we're training and learning, right? And because as women, I think, oh, well, if I say that, that's going to sound like I'm selfish. And I know raising my girls, they have felt like you try to teach your daughters to be able to stand up for themselves. When they have a very kind heart, they think saying no to someone is being mean. And it's like, no, there's a nice way to say, no, that's not okay for me, without sounding mean and selfish, but just self care. I can't be your roommate because this is not working for me. I've got to take care of myself and find either someone else to live with. I'm referring to a lot of things that girls go through at college, and guys go through it too. I need to find a new roommate, or we need to have our own rooms or something. It happens in relationships with family a lot of times, doesn't it? So, and friends, and you see people post sometimes, yeah, I'm getting rid of all the toxic friends in my life. And somebody else might think that's mean, but what they're doing is really taking care of themselves, because the other people are dragging them down, because they're moving into a place of, I want better. And it is my divine right to have better in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and that is a process. It takes time, to get into that space. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's you can't simply remove people from your life. People are around, but you can create a safe space for yourself where you
Mhm.
don't allow them to penetrate, um, to a point where it's damaging to you. That's what you don't want to do. You
Right.
can't,
But
you can't allow people to damage who you are.
right. And if it does happen, because there are kids in situations. We even had somebody reach out to us last year during the pandemic who, her parents were going to let her be at home, and she needed a place to go. And, you have kids in situations that feel locked in. And you know, that's a really tough place to be with a child in a situation that's unhealthy. Um, Trying to help them get to a place where they feel really healthy about themselves and understand what their truth is, and not the lies and the truth they have, what's been told to them in their lifetime. You're not worthy. I wish I would have never had you. There's all kinds of scenarios that happen. So as parents, we have to be responsible the moment that we decide to have a child, or we're like, oh, hey, we're pregnant, or oops, we're pregnant, kind of thing. we our lives change and our roles change in this world. And sometimes people have to grow up, and they have to go, okay, this is not just about me anymore. This is about this little being I brought into the world. And I want to teach them how to be a really good being in this world, and grow up and give to the world and not take away from it. That's one of the most responsible, biggest jobs that we can do for a child that we have.
Absolutely. I just want to remind everyone, if you've just joined us on any one
I'll
of the
hold the book
social
up.
media platforms, I'm
I'll
talking
hold the
to
book up.
Mary Elizabeth Jackson. We're talking about the book
Yeah.
Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. It's a book by Linda Sunshine West and there are 29 co-contributors in this book. And very importantly, what I would like to let you know, if you are watching us over on Amazon, the book is in the carousel. If you buy this book, none of us in the book are going to benefit from it. All
Mhm.
proceeds from the book, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore, 100% of the net profits of the sales of the book are going to a nonprofit charity, a registered nonprofit called Dress for Success. And this nonprofit empowers women to achieve economic independence by providing them with a support structure and a network. It also helps them with acquiring professional attire so that they can get a job, and they also help them with the tools to regain their confidence. So just know that when you buy the book, you are supporting a woman in need. So the book is not for us to self-enrich. It's going to a very, very worthy cause. So we do ask that you please support that over on Amazon and get a copy of the book, whether you get it in the paperback or the ebook, it really doesn't matter. But if you buy the book, if not for yourself, buy the book as a gift to someone. Buy a couple, give them to women in shelters, or women in need, women that you know of that may be struggling. And Mary, I was very it was very interesting speaking to Linda
Mhm.
about one of the ladies in the book, who is a well-known personality. She has a larger than life personality, and yet she felt invisible. So it's not just about women who live life in the shadows. Even
Right.
women who live very public lives still have this problem of feeling invisible. So
Right.
it can be a gift to any woman out there, if you support this. And I can tell you there are 29 different stories, each from women from all over the world, different kinds of stories. And what
And
I
you're
really
in this.
like that,
You're in
yes,
this as well.
absolutely. And what I really like that Linda did is that in each chapter, it's got the website of the author of the story.
Where you can find them. Yes.
So if you resonate with any one of the stories, you can go to that particular author's website and connect with them that way. So if you resonate with a story and you're struggling, reach out to that. You can reach any one of us my websites, but if a story resonates with you, go with that
Yeah,
particular.
reach out to them.
Um,
Reach out to them and say, I read your story, and it resonates with me. Or, hey, I have this going on, could you help me with this? Or, I'm kind of stuck, or I don't know what to do, kind of thing. And these stories in this book, I really want to honor each of the ladies in this book who have taken that chance and that step to come forward about the things in their lives and, to carry that for others. That's a real that was hard for some of us. We've had these a lot of interviews, and there are those of us who said how hard it was to write this stuff, to speak it out loud, other than just something that you've been carrying around with you that is never discussed or is never acknowledged, or maybe it's been talked about with frosting on the top. You never get down to the real bare bottom of it. And I certainly know I'm one of those. So I just honor all of the ladies that are in here and have been fascinated by the journeys that they have been on, and so overjoyed that they're here on this side looking back saying, gosh, I went through all that, but the human spirit's incredible, and what we can overcome is absolutely incredible in this world. We have to allow that to happen. We have to allow healing to happen and not stay in a place of more angry or bitter or unforgiving. Just because we forgive someone doesn't mean that it never happened. It just means that we don't carry it around with us and let it have power over us. This is empowering to be able to do what we've done. Very empowering, because it's like, okay, this does not own me anymore. And that's a big step for a lot of women, to be able to say, this doesn't own me. You don't have power over me anymore. I have my power now. And I'm the one who says, what's okay or what I let bother me. And we've said yes to ourselves stepping out into doing this. So I know you and I, and even Linda, probably had no idea. I don't think any of the ladies knew how fast this book would go to #1 Amazon bestseller. It did it in 8 hours, and even before the launch date, which was super exciting. And now it's an international bestseller. But I don't think any of us really realized the impact it would have, and it's still having, and we hope that it continues to have for other women and men too. I mean, listen, I know some men who have stories that would have been really great in this book, or just to be able to tell their stories. Because men don't talk about their feelings, Look
Right.
at us. It's hard enough for women. It's really hard for men to do. So we like to encourage men to acknowledge things that you've been through and to be able to talk about it as well. So you can get that healing and just be, we have one life to live. So let's be who we're supposed to be or intended to be or desire to be on this planet.
Absolutely. Mary, I'm so pleased that you've acknowledged that it's not just women who go through these difficulties or just women who feel invisible. There are a lot of men out there as well. And I think a lot of men can also relate to the stories that we've written. It's so diverse that I think there's a lot of relatability, regardless of whether you're or female watching
Yeah,
the
well, it's
show.
not
So
prefer. It's not preferential. I mean, abandonment happens to it can happen to anyone. Abuse can happen to anyone. So there's really no boundaries for it. It's kind of like the pandemic. It happens all over the world. But we are so grateful to Linda for starting this and leading it. And so, yeah.
absolutely. We do want to switch over to the other book, but before we do, just a reminder again, if you are watching the show and you are currently in a space where you are feeling um, unappreciated, you're feeling suicidal even for whatever the reason, um, this is an open invitation for you to have a look at the book, read the stories, see if you relate to any one of us, but more importantly, reach out to one of us. We've all been through the depths of feeling that we were not coping with life as it was, and we needed to dig our way out of there. So I can almost guarantee you that you'll relate to one of the women, one of the 29 women that are in the book. Please reach out to us. This is an open invitation for you to do so. But just switching gears from
Yeah.
invisible no more to invincible forevermore. And
Yes.
again, it's just Randy's just joining us. And Randy, we were talking about the book called that I've highlighted in the carousel right now,
Whoops.
Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore.
This one,
And
number
Randy,
5.
those stories are about women who've overcome all kinds of challenges in life. And it's stories from women from around the globe and in different kinds of situations. And you'll find something in there that is relatable. Um, it's an absolute pleasure. So, switching over to the other book, The Fearless Entrepreneurs. It's
Yes.
a beautiful cover. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Both books, beautiful. I love the covers and the
Oh, yeah, I
thought
do
that went
too.
into the design of them.
Yes.
So, data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the
Mm,
first 2 years of
right.
opening, and a staggering 45% during the first 5 years, and even worse, 65% during the first 10 years of operation. A mere 25% of new businesses make it to the 15-year mark or more. And so,
Mm.
why do people even start a business? Why do people become entrepreneurs when everybody else out there says to you, go get a real job?
Right, yeah.
How many times?
Something legit, something
Go,
dependable.
go, go
Yeah.
get a legit job. It's
Yeah,
like, what are
right.
you doing? Faffing
Right, yeah.
around here. That's not
Yeah.
real work. So
Right,
people kind
right,
of don't take
right.
you seriously,
And
and
it is
so here
hard for
we
some.
are.
Yeah, here we are. And those numbers have got to be higher through the pandemic last year. I mean, just even locally, I know in every town, in every city, I mean, even here, I think Chick-fil-A says they will open the inside of the restaurant when they can get enough employees back. And so there are restaurants that have done where, like, 3 nights a week they have dinner because they don't have enough staff, and then you have lots of places that have closed, and it's very, it's just heart-wrenching to see that for people because it was their dream and they sunk all of their savings into it. And we are the land of American dreams and going for it, and putting yourself out there and trying something new, and breaking the mold. And I mean, it's absolutely amazing to me that people, the like the videos and things and stuff that go viral, and then you have millions and millions and millions of people buying it or seeing it. I mean, it's just you just go, wow. Like, why didn't I think of that? Or you just like, really, because having a younger child, who's combing through YouTube and seeing lots of stuff that's out there for sale and for kids, and it's just like, oh my word. And it's sometimes it's absolutely fantastical creation, and other times you're like, this little tiny thing is making, there's so many people are, it's like this big, and so you wonder about, it's like, businesses that are successful, and then those that fail. And you could have a business, 3 businesses go through the same building, and what made one of them so successful for so long and the other 2 failed. It's really interesting how all that happens. So the Fearless Entrepreneurs, this is also by Linda Sunshine West. So we have a book about being fearless, and we have a book about being invincible. So great titles for both of them. And everyone in this book, there are 28 or 29 authors in
I
this
think
book
it's
as well.
20,
And
28. The other one is
I think it's
29. This one's
I think
28.
so too. Yes. And if Linda's still on, she can correct us on that. But the Fearless Entrepreneurs book is, it has men and women in it. And it's about uh, their personal journeys of what they overcame in their entrepreneur journey, and like where they are now and successful, or they're gaining success, or they've been successful multiple times. And so it's got some really great information in there, and the stories are fantastic as well. If you're an entrepreneur, this is a great book to read, and get tips or information, or maybe learn something that someone tried that really worked. I know we're talking about doing a summit for this, and it will be next year. So We want people to be looking out for that. So it'll be an entrepreneurial summit that'll be really fantastic. And we're doing one for Invincible as well. And there'll be two totally different kinds of summits, of course. But I write about how sometimes it just takes a while for us to find our thing, in quotation marks, or our it, or what it is that we're good at, that we are seeing success in, or we've kind of found our niche, because there's just so many different things as an entrepreneur that you can try. It doesn't mean you are going to try, because you may have no interest. I have no interest in opening up a pizza restaurant, or like my husband is an amazing cook.
Finding your passion.
Yes, he's an amazing cook. He's been in the bar restaurant business for maybe 30 years now, maybe no, yeah, something like that. And I always say to him, you really should open a restaurant, because the food would be fantastic. And he's like, if I want to die, I will open a restaurant, because of how hard of work it is. And like all the stats you read, what's up against you. And we have friends who own restaurants. So you gotta open 5 restaurants to have a couple of successful ones, So we do have friends that own multiple restaurants, and their life is work. That's it. That's all they do is work. And not that we want our lives to be filled with that, but certainly everything requires work to get where you want to be. And so, I talk about in my story the different things I tried until I got where I am now. And so, it took me a long time, and it didn't happen for me until later in my life. I was like 47, 48 years old. And so, I had tried various different things, and some of those were great for the time being that they were. And I was also being a mother through all of that. And I battled the guilt of, why do I need to do something other than just being a mom? Isn't that enough? Because I was told I couldn't have children.
Oh,
So
I think all women go through that, isn't it, Mary? That's
yeah,
so relatable. We all go through that guilty feelings like, I shouldn't be behind a desk. I should be taking care of my kids. And we're not saying that you mustn't take care of your children. We absolutely must. It's our first priority. But it doesn't mean that we can't do other things.
right. It doesn't mean you're bad. Like, shame on you. You want to be more than just a mom. Isn't that enough for you? And don't neglect your children. And I have 2 kids on the spectrum. So, I mean, my little guy who's 8 he's autistic. So that kind of adds another spice into the whole ingredients here for trying to be a mom and an entrepreneur as well, and balance those. And it does take a lot of effort to balance, I will say. But you have to get yourself organized. And I'm not always good about the self-care part of taking that time for myself, because what happens for me, which probably happens for you, Bridgetti, and I know it happens for Linda and other women, then your mind starts going with all this creative stuff and things you want to do, right? So then it's like, okay, I need to get on my next project, or I need to go write this down. So I jokingly say, okay, I've got 1 hour. So can I clean the house, do all the laundry, take a nap, maybe read a book, figure out dinner, and then go sit in the sun and relax? Can I get all that done in an hour? Right? Because maybe that's all I have. Well, what a joke that is. You got to pick one thing and be good at whatever that one thing is that you can do in that moment. But, I really struggled with that. So, and I had large gaps between my entrepreneurial journey and now where I'm at, everything kind of has come together to work together. I was a lover and writer my whole life, of words and writing, and poetry was my thing. I had no idea that the late in life birth of my son, which was not planned, but it was a completely God-given child, because, like I said, I was told I couldn't have children. So all 3 of my kids are miracles, and I had 4 pregnancies and 3 babies. And but him being birthed and everything that happened with him ended up in producing a children's series that I really did not even see coming, had no idea. There was nothing in my crystal ball that said, hey, guess what's coming up for you, So all of that happened. And even when we go back to the self-worth thing and acknowledging ourselves, even after that manuscript came to me and I wrote the book, the first book in my Poolisha series, I sat on it for 2 years because I didn't think anyone else would want to read it. I really did. I thought, oh, it's cute. I'll keep it for my family. But God said, no, you need to do something with this. So it was like somebody was nudging at my shoulder for 2 years. You have to do something with this. So when you have that, that's given to you, and that you have that instinct, you, even if you have no clue what you're doing, you need to surrender to allow those doors to open. Because as soon as I stepped forward and said, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to do this, then I was introduced to my co-writer, and then everything opened after that. You know, he loved the manuscript. He wrote 10 songs for it. We're now getting ready to have our fourth book published, release in October. So all these doors opened up, you know, and so from the books, which include my family. So I've been able to include my family in this. You know, the covers have my son's face on them, a caricature of him. The first book has 10 songs that were written for it that my girls recorded in the studio, that's on, you know, CD. You can find it on Amazon, and anywhere else that streams music, but you can find it there with the books. But, you know, I then went from there to then the advocacy work I do because of my life and my children, I have brought into it as well. And then, you know, we have our Writers Corner live show, which was one of those things that came from it. I didn't know we were going to do it. You didn't know we were going to do it. And it was one of those things we said, hey, we want to do this together. We didn't know really what we were doing or our agenda for it. And then here we are 3.5 years later. We are booked out. We could book into next year if we want at this point, but we're going to wait, and we're stopping for the end of the year. So, and we've interviewed, I don't know, I know last count was 133. So I know we're well over that now. I have no idea, but we've interviewed authors from all over the world, and, you know, bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, multi-award winners, debut authors. You know, we had, I think his name was Xavier Thomas, and it was his
Yes,
debut book. Yes. And it was a poetry
poems.
book, poems. And he had so many people watch, and he's done so well. And his drive for what he's doing and his message for the world is so empowering. But, you know, that's where we have to listen to those nudges inside and what our passion is, what makes our heart sing, you know, and if you have to be in I get, like what Bridgetti said, a real job, you know, until you can make your entrepreneurial dream come true, then you may have to do both for a little while, you know, but you definitely have to listen to what's inside, you know, and that can be creative in any way. Look at people who make cakes. I mean, you know, cake baking period has gone to a place that I never imagined it would. You know, we get stuck watching some of the shows on
Oh
YouTube,
my
and
goodness. It is mind
I know
blowing,
the
mind
art.
blowing.
I know the art that goes into it, and you're just like, "Ooh, I want to eat that," or let's go make that, you know? So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to be an entrepreneur. When my oldest was 9 months, I love to bake. I don't eat a lot of it, but I love to bake. And I created a business, a gourmet candy business. And literally I baked all these things. I made them in different molds and different types, and I wrapped them in these gorgeous boxes that some of them I made myself because I was on a no budget, right? Trying to make it work. Got in my car with my 9-month-old and drove up and down the road between different towns and cities, walking into businesses with the baby on my hip, boxes for sale. And that's what I did. And then I did jewelry, and I had a partner, and we did that for 5, 6 years. And, you know, we were in lots of different stores and had lots of private customers and, I mean, clients and everything. And, you know, then it was time for that to stop. And, you know, then there were other things in between. And then now here I am. And, you know, I still want to create, but we do have to listen to what's inside of ourselves, and we have to keep asking that question: what is my purpose on this planet? Who am I here to serve? Where can I serve? What gifts do I have that I can leverage and utilize? Because we all have gifts. I don't care who you are, we all have gifts.
We
right?
do. I think something that the pandemic has done us a huge big favor with is it's opened our eyes to opportunities. Yes,
Hmm.
a lot of people we spoke about this in the beginning of the show. If you're only just joining us now, we're talking about two books today: Invisible No More and
Okay. I'll
Invincible
hold them up.
Forevermore. And also, there we go. Thank you. Those are the two books we're focusing on today.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what we were saying is that the pandemic has caused a lot of hardship for people. People have lost their
Yes.
jobs. Many have lost their jobs. But the one thing that it has changed, and for me in particular, the one thing that I've liked about the pandemic is that it's allowed us to look at work in a different way. Previously, a lot of people were excluded from the workplace, and in particular, people in the special needs and abilities community were excluded from the workplace because the thinking prior to the pandemic was that you couldn't get a job unless you fitted into the mold of a bum on a seat in a corporate building.
Right.
And a lot of people in the special needs and abilities community were excluded. A lot of mothers with young children were excluded on that basis. But the pandemic has taught us we can be economically active from home and do a great, great job. And I think, with all the interviews we've done, Mary, a lot of things, one thing that's come through more and more is that often people on the spectrum make great workers. They're very, very dedicated. They're very
Hmm.
hardworking because they have this because of their ADHD. They focus so much on getting things done right. They don't get distracted by other things. They focus on getting something right. So a lot of times it works for them. And now with the pandemic, companies are realizing people can be economically active from home. And a lot of people talking about fearless entrepreneurs, people who thought that they couldn't do this before, their eyes have now opened up to the fact that they're enjoying working around their family life. The
Yeah,
fact that they can
including,
take care of, they can include their
right.
families and they can still be economically active. And so people who previously were scared of an entrepreneurial journey have now given up their corporate jobs because they realize they can actually do this from home.
Yeah, absolutely. And we interviewed Deborah Rue a couple last week, the week before, and she's got Billion Strong. So Billion hyphen Strong. If you are someone who has challenges or disabilities, or you have an adult child who does, or a relative who does, check out Billion Strong. They have a list on there, somewhere on their website, I think, of all the companies that are hiring people around the globe and that have challenges and or disabilities of some form, because everybody can, there are such contributions that folks with different challenges that can contribute to a company, that these companies are looking to hire folks. And I'm grateful for, and so are you, to Deborah, for all the hard work that she has done. She is one of those women that you just go, holy cow. I mean, well, I know we're not supposed to put people on pedestals, but good gracious, the work she's done is unbelievable. And it's such an honor to know her and to see her drive, and she's so funny because she has ADHD. So even during our interview, she couldn't sit. So she definitely gets things done because she never stops.
She does. I
Yeah.
think I nicknamed her the mother on steroids.
Yes.
She
Yes.
was on a wicked mission when she realized that her daughter would need all kinds of support and help. She went
Hmm.
into overdrive. Sometimes we become paralyzed by our circumstances,
Yeah.
but in the case of women like Deborah, she went into overdrive, wanting to make sure that she was not the same as with you, Mary, not wanting to
Mm,
just only help your own child, but to become the
right.
voice for other children and other parents in a similar situation. And I think that's absolutely magical that you have found your voice to be able to not just help your own family, but to help other families as well. And I think that is phenomenal. And the other thing that came out of the conversation
Thank
with
you.
Deborah was to look
Hmm.
at the community as a community, not of special, not of disabilities,
Right.
but with different kinds of abilities. So again, it's about
Absolutely.
how we frame others and how we frame ourselves, not to
Yeah.
focus on what we can't do and sort of say, I have this disability. What are your abilities? What can you do? And focus in on that. And I
Right.
thought that
Always
was
tell a
very
child,
powerful.
yes, and people can overcome so many things in this. I mean, like watching even my own two children overcome, two of my three kids overcome the challenges that they have faced in their life when they were younger. eh, That fascinates me so much that when I think my 17-year-old was little, I really wanted to go into work, into early intervention work, just because it was so rewarding to see children overcome. You give them the right tools and they can do it. It's like putting a child on a bicycle, for instance, or even with handwriting, or if a child needs to use even a voice recorded kind of machine, being able to teach them how to use it. It's amazing. They're so smart. They're just the things that they can overcome even when they have challenges is so it's just absolutely amazing. But I remember how lonely I felt, and I remember not knowing what I was doing, having no one to turn to, feeling like I was the only mom, because my oldest was typical, so I was around all that, if you want to call it typical families, and I remember what that felt like. So it's important to me to give back where I can. And also, having something happen to my child the way it did, it brought out a different level of mama bear. It brought out this fierce woman who was going to protect her child and not stop to make changes where changes needed to be made to protect children, because it should never happen to any child ever. A child should never be mistreated at the hands of another human being, family or not family, and especially an educator. Educators are trained. They should be trained. I'll say should because a lot of times there's not enough
They're
training that
not
happens.
correct.
Yes, and that's where some of these problems happen. But you know, it's interesting. We can look at our lives and see, we have choices. Again, here's the word choice. We can look at our lives and go, God, my life has really dealt me a whole lot of hard stuff. Or I can look at it and go, wow, look at what it's taught me and how much I've grown. And I'm a different human being than I might have been, and how blessed I am because of that. How grateful I am that my life has taught me the things that it's taught me. And it's created me to be a deeper person and a more bold person, and somebody who's not going to lay down and has a purpose and wants to help others. And my children, I don't know what kind of mom I would have been. I would have always been a loving mom and trying to educate them and help and teach them everything. But the stuff that we've been through, it's taken it to such a level that I never saw. God knew, I didn't know. And so there's that old saying that you're not given more than what you can handle. Boy, there are days we really do think we can't handle it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But if we just take one step at a time to get ourselves out of that dark place, it's sort of like going into a cold bath or a cold, pool. We have to do one little step at a time to get ourselves like, okay, I can do this. I can handle this, you know? So, um, but it's led to so many things. Every time I've said yes, it's led to so many wonderful things. So we just have to start. We have to keep saying yes to ourselves. Linda kept saying yes to herself. You have said yes to yourself. I've said yes to myself, and here we are. We're part of these two great anthologies, and um, that hopefully are going to be really helpful to other people. And and then we have more going on. I know Thornton and I have Tears from Heaven that's going to be released October 19th, and October is anti-bullying month. I know there's other awarenesses for that month, but it is that in our book Tears from Heaven is an anti-bullying story that has an outcome of children learning to forgive themselves and helping their friends learn to do the same thing. So it's a very special book, I feel. And this, I want to just show this real quick because this just released June 2nd. And this is the third in the children's series I have called Poolish's Oh, the Wonder of Me. And it's really good for kids like ages 4 to 8 and all that quirky awkward time in a child's life. And, but it's got empowering words in it, because you think about how your life would have been. And I think about how my life would have been had I had somebody saying things to me like, you can, and you are, with a positive word behind it, mind you. And then I looked in the mirror on days that were tough, or I sat there with myself and said, I can do this. I am going to be okay. I am happy or joyful or loving or compassionate or whatever those words are. How different would we have been had we had somebody teaching us that as a child?
Absolutely. Just reframing how we feel about ourselves has been super important. So
Mm-hmm.
again, if you are watching the show, we're talking about Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And that book, if you buy that book, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore,
Mm-hmm.
you would be supporting the non-profit called Dress for Success. It's a charity organization that empowers women to achieve economic independence. So again, none of the authors are benefiting from the book. All the proceeds of that book is going to Dress for Success, to support women in need and to provide them with clothes and the tools that they need to become successful. The other book, The Fearless Entrepreneurs, that we were talking about, again, the profits of that book, 100% of the proceeds is going to the nonprofit called Lemonade Day. This particular charity, their mission is to help prepare youth through life, through fun, proactive programs infused with life skills. They do character education, and they do entrepreneurship education. So, again, for both books, if you buy any one of those two books, you will be supporting
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits. And, we've thought very carefully about choosing the nonprofits so that we made sure it aligns with the mission of the stories in the book.
Yeah.
So, um, Invisible No More is about uplifting other women, and so we've chosen a charity that does exactly that. And then the Fearless Entrepreneurs, we've gone with empowering young people to become successful entrepreneurs, because what could be better? I've always wondered why at school, and I'm so glad that things have changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at school, we didn't learn about entrepreneurship.
No,
Everything
no.
in our education was about, learning to get a job. It was like
Right.
landing a job was like
Right.
the ultimate goal.
Right.
We didn't have the skill sets and the tools taught to us in school to become entrepreneurial. We only learned it later in life, right?
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is, I think it's really great to teach kids this, because, like, I know for my own daughter, I was talking about this yesterday. My oldest, so she wasn't graduated high school yet, I don't think. No, she was still in high school. So she and her girlfriend, loved Disney princess stuff. So they started a Disney princess party business, right? And we have
And
costumes
they
in that.
do great stuff. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah, and it's
They
so
they they
fun.
need a website just for that. I mean,
They do. They do.
oh my goodness,
It's called My Princess.
magical.
It's
It's beautiful.
myprincesscelebrations.com. It is gorgeous, and we have all the costumes in the house and everything. And so, just the thing is, whether it were to ever take off or not, that's not the point. The point is, they started it because it's something they love to do. They started to learn about business at a young age and the hard work that goes into it, because they need to understand that it is not like, oh, I want a toy, or oh, I want this, and then it just boom, you have it. It's not gratifying like that. Like Carson wants to go to Target and pick out the next, whatever. It's not like that at all. It has a whole different level and multiple levels, and learning to work with people, and learning to talk to people, and learning to put yourself out there, and having to come up with a business plan, and how much things cost, and how you take money, and it's there's a lot to it. Even if you just teach the even if kids do it for a little while. We have on Tuesday nights through the summer, we have food trucks that come to our neighborhood at the pool. And so it's kind of fun because people, in the neighborhood get their dinner at the food truck and then go to the pool and sit and swim or go home and or hang out at the in the parking lot there. So there's one that came through called rolling something. Anyways, they were ice cream, and so it turns out that it was the little guy who took my money. He's like 10 years old. I was like, oh wow, look at you already taking money. How cute is that?
Sweet.
I know, it's adorable. So what it was is mom and dad bought the business on the side directly, specifically to teach the boys about business. And they were both in elementary, and maybe the older one was in middle school, but we were all like, you're a genius. You need to be teaching parenting classes, you know? So
That is amazing. Just creating opportunities for the young people in our lives and giving them the practical experience. And children enjoy it. I don't think they ever forget, when we are able to help them and empower them in that way by teaching them these life skills that they need for business. And I like, as you mentioned there, um, and I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that business is hard work.
yeah,
Making a business work takes a lot of time, effort, planning, dedication, late nights,
yes,
you know, and a lot of people, wait until their little ones go to bed and then they start, dedicating time to their business.
yes.
So it's a lot
That
of
would be
hard
me.
work. It's not easy being an entrepreneurial, but it is
No,
a career path nonetheless. Some people are not an entrepreneurial and they enjoy the 9 to 5. They enjoy collecting a regular paycheck, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not
right,
for everyone. Not everyone likes to have that or can do that.
right,
Especially moms, for example. It works for a lot of moms and dads. Again, it's not sexist.
right, right.
It suits a lot of people's lifestyles to be entrepreneurial. Um, and there's a huge, I think, the satisfaction you get out of being an entrepreneur when somebody wants to pay you for something that you really enjoy doing. Nothing
Yeah.
tops that, right?
Right, right. And a lot of time, I think there are stories in the Fearless book, the entrepreneur book. What happens a lot of times for people is hardships in their life then turn into something as a business to help others. And that's always those wonderful stories, I think, for folks. And I mean, I love hearing the stories of the people in this book and others of things they overcame to get where they are, and just dreams that they had that they made manifest. And they didn't, it just didn't happen the first time out the box. They had to try several different things. Like in my life, I had to try several different things to kind of come to where I am now. And this, I don't, I there's a big future out there. So for people who are creative, being an entrepreneur is, if that's the side of your brain that gears you to go forward, then it's a great place to be, right?
Absolutely. And again, as we mentioned before, with the pandemic, a lot of people have realized they may not have realized that they have, entrepreneurial skills or that it's something that they could explore. But
Right.
since they're working from home anyway, it's opened their eyes to the fact that perhaps this is something that they could do and enjoy and working around their children. I love how the pandemic has reframed our thinking of being, our lives are no longer just purely work centric. We've kind of gone back to becoming more family centric in our approach, and
Yes.
just being able to work around our children. And I think women, for women, I think it's been one of the biggest blessings, because now instead of wondering what's happening to your kiddos, are they safe at home, are they safe at school, that worry has now been removed, and you can actually more intentionally focus on work and your tasks at hand, because that worry about your children essentially is removed, because you know that they are well taken care of. And nothing tops that, just that feeling that my kiddos are safe is means a lot to parents.
Oh yeah, it means a lot to parents, absolutely. And today is actually the second day since March of 2020 that I'm by myself for the first time. And it's like, wow, the house is very quiet. I mean, very quiet. So it's fantastic. I thought I was going to really have a hard time, but I'm too busy to have a hard time with. I'm just going to relish in the peace and the quiet.
Just enjoy the moment. Anyway,
Yes.
I think we've, I want to say thank you to you, Mary, for being my guest today on Books with Bridgetti. And I want to say thank you to our amazing audience. I want to say thank you to everyone who has stopped by, who's commented. We were talking about the Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore book, and also the Fearless Entrepreneurs book. And again, as we close out, just to remind you that two very, very well chosen and worthy charities are going to be benefiting from the proceeds of these books. So if you support the books, you are supporting two worthy charities. So thank you for staying with us, Mary. Thank you so
Thank you for
very
having me on.
much.
Thank you for having me on. And I'm so glad we're in Invincible together. And so it's a really fun journey to be on because, we live in two different continents, and the internet has made it just an amazing experience for us to have the friendship that we do. So we're very grateful for technology in that way. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and my guest today was Mary Elizabeth Jackson. Stay well, stay safe. Until next time, we'll see you back soon on Books with Bridgetti. Almost 3 billion people and counting are consuming video content on their devices. BeLive Media helps brands position their products and services to people at a time and manner that's convenient to them. If you would like to reach your customers and clients and stay ahead of your competitors, then connect with us.